Welcome aboard the RSS commentary on Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. I am your host, Captain Cale McCullough, and today's top news stories. More evidence emerges that COVID-19 was a Chinese bioweapon that originated from the Wuhan lab, and 5 Oregon counties vote to join Idaho. Here, let me change this here real quick. About that. That was 5 Oregon counties vote to leave Oregon and join Idaho. And Black Looter Mob, aka Black Lives Matter, mixed with Antifa-Nazis, goes full-blown anti-Semitic, goes on a rash of anti-Asian hate crimes. RSS Commentary is an indie news organization. You can find us on GitHub at, you can find us at rsscommentary.com/125 for this show. Although right now you have to go to rsscommentary.com/issue 125 because I'm still updating the website. As you can see, I messed up some stuff. But you can find links to the show there, and you can find links to subscribe to us on YouTube. If you like this content, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. The best way to help this show grow is to share this story on social media. All right. Sorry, I'm biffing it hard here. I just changed the entire setup. In our top news story from Fox News, House Intel Republicans say significant circumstantial evidence of COVID Wuhan lab leak. Oops. Oops. Shoot. Oops. Having some issues here. Republicans on the House Intel Committee say there's significant circumstantial evidence that COVID-19 outbreak stemmed from a leak at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, urging the federal government to put, quote, more pressure on China, end quote, to allow for full, credible investigation. Now, if you haven't been following this story, this is enraging. So, this show started about whenever the pandemic started, and I was wailing on the WHO for everything that they were doing because America puts in like 10 times more money than China does, and then China puts 10 times more money than the next country in, and China ends up running the WHO. And so the Chinese Nazi Party and the Russians have been pushing this critical theory, anti-white racism stuff where they're blaming white people for like everything that is wrong. No, it's not poverty. It's not crime. It's not drugs. It's not socialism. It's white people or white people. That is everything that is wrong with this world is the white people who did everything right, who saved up a bunch of money for their retirement and who helped the economy out and who made America one of the greatest countries on earth. Yeah, those people are the problem. Right. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to break our morale. And so this was an excellent example of why critical theory needs to be banned, because the Chinese were saying that we're being racist by calling it the China virus, and by saying that it was the Chinese that are responsible for this virus, and it's because they're able to through things like paying people to go onto Wikipedia to edit Wikipedia articles, to companies in America are trying to expand into China, and so they want to take advantage of the slave labor in China. And so in order to do that, you cannot criticize the Chinese Nazi Party. If you do, then like for instance, if a YouTuber like me criticizes the dictator Zinni the Pooh of Nazi China, aka Xi Jinping, then companies who manufacture products in China now are going to have to boycott any sort of advertisements on my show, which is why you should make a donation at rsscommentary.com/donate. And so the censorship that you've been seeing on YouTube, a lot of it is actually coming from companies that make a lot of money in China, who are taking advertising funds from channels like China Uncensored, ADV China, and what's another one that talks about China? Is it New Hope News or something like that? So, or Epic Times. That's another really good example. So these YouTube channels, they don't put out anything that's like controversial. Like they don't spit out any sort of like racism, sexism, anything. And they're very good channels. I would highly recommend watching ADV China, China Unscripted, China Uncensored, and Epic Times. But the companies are pulling their ad dollars from anything that's critical of the Chinese Nazi Party. And it's because they want to get those Chinese Nazi dollars. They want the money from the communists. They want to make profits in China. That's quote unquote a communist country. There's no capitalism in China. There's no making profits in communism. The only way that that's possible is under fascism. So this is the problem that we got going on is so let's get back to the COVID-19 thing. People have been saying like there's no chance that it came from China because the number of interactions that people have between humans and animals is dramatically higher. So therefore the probability chance that it came from the Wuhan lab is 0. That's the story that everybody bought. In fact, I even bought that story for a little bit. I didn't think too far into it. But the thing is like we covered a story last week. There was a report that came out that showed that the Chinese had been preparing for World War III for the past 6 years to use SARS coronaviruses as bioweapons. And the Wuhan lab has been studying these SARS coronaviruses. They've been going into the caves where the bats are that have these SARS viruses. And whenever they do that, the chance that it was the people who went in to the caves to harvest the viruses, the chance that it was them that caused the pandemic goes up multiple exponents. Because you're talking about a chance of interaction between like bats in these caves and a human being at like 0.0000001% or something, like very, very minuscule chance that humans would interact. But then you start sending teams into these caves in order to find these viruses, and then the chance that it was those people then all of a sudden now starts to go up near 100%. This is the problem with their story, is that it's based on us trusting them and not questioning stuff that they do. And if you know anything about dictators, authoritarian countries, you really, 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 really need to question what these authoritarian countries are doing, because they do not have your best interest at heart. They don't support free speech. They don't support freedom. They want to lock you up in a gulag, jack you, take all your money, and use you as a slave. Okay, these are not the kind of people that you're supposed to be playing nice with, being like dumb and innocent and just allowing them to get away with anything. You have to watch them with a prying eye and look for everything that they do and take notes, because they're a threat. Here, let's read further in this article. Committee ranking member Devin Nunes, Republican from California, an actual sane politician from California. That's actually incredible, because all that I can think of California is Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and Maxine Waters. Like, it's impossible to think about California without thinking about those three people and how bad of politicians they are. So Nunes and Republicans on the panel released a report Wednesday, first obtained by Fox News, saying it's crucial for health experts and the U.S. government to understand how the COVID-19 virus originated to prevent or quickly mitigate future pandemics, and quote, international efforts to discover the true source of the virus, however, have been stymied by a lack of cooperation from the People's Republic of China, end quote. Are they really a republic? Do you really think that the people in China elect the leaders? Really? I've got a bridge for sale downtown Eugene. If you want to put $100 in my crypto wallet, it can be yours. So obviously the Chinese Communist Party, quote unquote communist, they're really fascist. The Chinese fascist, let's just call them Nazis. Chinese Nazi Party is the one who picks the leaders in China. They're not a republic. Quote, nevertheless, significant circumstantial evidence raises serious concerns that the COVID-19 outbreak may have been a leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, end quote. I'm going to push back. It wasn't a leak. I believe personally that it was a intentionally released bioweapon. You should probably go back and read that article. I covered it on one of the lead stories of RSS Commentary a couple of weeks ago, but Chinese have been preparing for World War III for 6 years to use SARS coronaviruses. What they're trying to do is they're trying to bankrupt the world's economy. They got this Made in China 2025 initiative, and this basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to replace America from their supply chain so that they can be the world's #1 superpower. And they're the biggest threat in the entire world. We got to take them out. If we take them out, if we make a concerted effort, they are weak right now. They're actually way weaker than you think. That's actually, they're doing what they're doing because they're weak, not because they're strong, but because they know the gig's up. People know that China is not communist, that they have rampant capitalism in China, which is definitely not communist. That would be National Socialist. So a fascist is where you allow private property, or you allow private property and then you allow hyper-competitive businesses. So there's a range of fascists. They go from communist with private property, just like on the borderline of communism. And then it goes into Nazism, where they are trying to be the world's #1 superpower. They got concentration camps. They are committing genocide. They're They're like ethno-nationalists. So in China, they're Han supremacist ethno-nationalists. They're ultra ethno-nationalists there. They believe that Chinese are destined to rule the world, and the leaders of China believe that they're part of some sort of like they have some divine blood in them that comes from the creator that gives them magical powers through Taoism, all these weird, bizarre Eastern philosophies, like just nutcase stuff. And these are the people who are pulling the strings behind the scenes of this critical race theory stuff, because the Chinese own so many corporations in the United States, it allows them to set the workplace rules, which allows them to infect us with cultural Marxism through this critical race theory. So here, let's move on in the article. Republicans pointed to China's history of research lab leaks resulting in infections and warnings from the U.S. diplomats in China as early as 2017 that the Wuhan lab was conducting, quote, dangerous research, end quote, on coronaviruses without following necessary safety protocols, risking the accidental outbreak of a pandemic, end quote, which would be very convenient for the Chinese military and the Chinese Nazi Party. Republicans also pointed to public reports that, quote, several researchers in Wuhan lab were sickened with COVID-19-like symptoms, quote, in fall 2019. The Chinese military involvement in the Wuhan lab. So that, I think, this is the second time me reading through this article. I think that was it. A lot of it is kind of fluff, like talking points. They're like working it up. And I think that was actually the paragraph. That was the thing that they're saying, is that there was public reports of several researchers in the Wuhan lab were sickened with COVID-19 like symptoms. That would make sense. So, quote, by contrast, little circumstantial evidence has emerged to support the PRC's claim that COVID-19 was a natural occurrence, not as if they would be able to come up with that. Having jumped from some other species to human, end quote, they wrote, saying Chinese authorities have, quote, failed to identify the original species that allegedly spread the virus to humans, which is critical to their zoonotic transfer theory, end quote. Here we can see a picture of Batwoman. Committee Republicans also claimed there are clear signs that United States government agencies and academic institutions have funded or collaborated in gain of functions research at the Wuhan lab. Government had paused these kinds of studies in the United States due to ethical concerns over the bio-warfare applicability and their potential to accidentally unleash a pandemic, end quote. Yeah. Definitely should have been scared to death of this stuff from the start. Like, that's some freaky stuff, man. Like, stuff that can, like, kill millions of people, that can get out accidentally. I couldn't tell you whether or not China intentionally released it or whether or not they made the bioweapon to use and then it accidentally got released. I don't know. Quote, to protect American citizens from future pandemics, the United States government must place more pressure on China to allow full, credible investigations of the source of the COVID-19 pandemic and to allow probes of the likelihood that it resulted from a lab leak, end quote. The report says, quote, the U.S. government must also provide full accountability for any American cooperating with the Wuhan lab's coronavirus research, including the support of these projects through U.S. government funds, end quote. The report was released after Nunes and other GOP members on the committee penned letters to President Kamala Harris and Vice President Joe Biden and Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, accusing the intelligence community of failing to provide timely updates on the investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 and of not being forthcoming about what processes it undertook to make seemingly authoritative statements early in the pandemic about the origins of the virus, conclusions that are now in question. I've got videos of me going off about the WHO and how horrible this organization is, and how they were trying to protect China because China was the second biggest contributor, and then the people are saying that like Americans are racist, and so that's why they're like listening to the Chinese over us. And really, it's just like the WHO is so stupid. Everything about the WHO is stupid because it's like, in order for the WHO to do anything, they have to have a meeting. In order to do this, you have to get all of the countries who are a member of the WHO to get together to come to another country in order to have this meeting. This is absolutely a horrible way to do any sort of science. It's bad. It's absolutely horrible. Should not at all be like that. Sorry, I just spaced out. I'm going to get back to this article here. The letter demanded that the intelligence community turn over all of its information about COVID-19's origin, requesting any and all reportings on a possible collaboration between Wuhan lab and the Chinese military. It asked for any evidence intelligence agencies had to prove coronavirus broke out naturally and originated in animals, and also asked if the intelligence community was involved in any reviews of gain-of-function research, whether it was appropriate to fund such research outside the U.S. Letters set a deadline of May 31st to begin providing information of the relevant request. I'm going to let you read the rest of this article. Stick around. We got some more articles here to come. What's the next one? We're going into 5 Oregon counties are voted to secede from the Union. So here, I'm going to switch computers over here, but just give me a minute. All right. What's this next one? Where we at? I tried to do this show earlier, and then I streamed to the wrong channel. Oops. But hey, I think I did better this time. Where are we at? We're at 22 minutes into the show. Got to get it done as quickly as possible tonight. In this next article from Breitbart, 5 Oregon counties vote to secede and join Idaho. Thousands of people in Eastern Oregon voted Tuesday for their elected officials to consider ditching their state and becoming part of Idaho. Voters in Sherman, Lake, Grant, Baker, and Malheur counties all voted for ballot measures that would lead to them becoming Idahoans. People in Union and Jefferson counties had already voted in favor during the November election. The vote is only the first step in the Greater Idaho Project, which would allow some Oregon counties to join a state that advocates say more closely aligns with their political preferences. I live in Oregon. I live in Eugene. I'm in one of those far left cities where people vote blue no matter who. The government sucks. The people are bad to each other, but then all the fake hippies all claim that people are really nice, but then they're not nice to everybody else. And then they try to say that it's Trump supporters that are the ones who are like putting out all of this hate, when in reality, it's their venomous hatred towards racist people, as if like a white person disliking a non-white person is like a sin or something. I don't know. These people are crazy. They don't represent my values. I grew up in Missouri, and I used to throw big raves here. So I have a crew of lefty friends here. And whenever I realized that these feminists would attack anybody that they viewed as misogynist, because I'd seen it on them do it so many times, and then I decided to start criticizing feminism to see whether or not they would attack me, because I'd always been a feminist my entire life. And I figured, well, you know, I've seen these people be so mean to people on the internet that they thought were misogynists. Like, what if I just like start saying meninist jokes?
So I started posting Meninist jokes on Facebook, and then all these lefties started attacking me, trying to paint me as like this like woman hater, incel, misogynist, and it's like they're insane. So there's two camps of feminists. There's the young feminist, and then there's the old feminist. And the young feminist, like young women don't have a pay gap. The pay gap is between mothers who have a work gap and also fathers who have a work gap and people who don't have work gaps from parenting. And they completely neglect the fact that this also too happens to fathers. And when it does, the work gap does happen to fathers, they have a much higher rate of suicide than the women do. But so these people, the young women, they're not underpaid. They're super hot. They got all these guys throwing themselves at them. They're paying for all the college age women's rent, room and board, buying them clothes, lingerie, everything so that they can get some poon and start a family with these young hot women. And so the young women are used to having all these guys giving all this attention to them. And then women start to age very quickly. And the guys start losing interest in them by the time they're about like maybe 25 to 27 or something. And so the older women now in the United States, women hold 2/3 of college degrees. They hold 2/3 of the wealth in the United States. They control 85% of consumer spending. So what that means is that 85 cents out of every single dollar spent in the United States is spent by a woman, on a woman, or the woman controls how that money was spent. So the older women, especially the older white women, they have the most money in the entire country, more money than everyone else. This group of women is definitely not underpaid. So the women who did drop out of the workplace, they typically chose jobs that they didn't need to work as hard because they wanted to be with their family. So they didn't actually need to work because they had a lot of money. They had maybe bought a house or they invested in something else. And then they had other sources of income because, hourly wages isn't the only way that people make money. There's actually like different ways to make money other than an hourly wage. Actually, I know. Shocking, huh? Right? So the older women are pissed off as hell that all these guys who've been chasing them their entire lives are now no longer interested in them, and they're chasing after the younger women. So the young women are complaining that they're underpaid and that the men are, but they're loving all of this sexual attention. And then the older women are not, have all of the money, but no amount of money in the world can turn back time and make expired eggs fertilize. So despite having that premium job that they fired the white male in order to replace them with the younger, more diverse person and a woman, they got all of that, but that still did not make them happy. It did not give them that husband, that family, and those kids. And when they were young, they were like, I don't want any kids. I don't want a husband. I just want to sleep around. I want to get tag teamed by 2 Chads a week. And once you've put off having kids so that you can rise up the man ladder, so you could be the boss in a corporation, then all of a sudden you're hitting the point in time where you can't have the kids anymore. And then it clicks. It's like these women, it's like they're having a midlife crisis. And I don't know if you've ever seen anybody having a midlife crisis, but it's like they're freaking out. It's like their entire life they've been, or their recent life, they've been in their prime. Everything's been going their way. They are in control of everything, but they're starting to hit the wall. They're starting to get age out, and the women, the opposite sex, the people that they want to give attention to them, they're no longer giving them attention. And this is when these feminist women flip out, dude. They turn into, it's like it's like the dude who like does balls of crack, just like smokes massive amount of crack. It's like that's what it's like. They can't stop. It's like they're like, I have to have kids, have to mate, I have to like have the husband, I have to get it. And then it's like, but the guys aren't interested in them anymore. So they just get enraged. They think these guys are misogynists. They're just using these young women for sex. This is the insanity I have to put up with in this far left city, Eugene, Oregon, where the people are batshit crazy over this Oregon Country Fair, la-di-da, everybody singing around, holding hands around the campfire, singing Kumbaya. It's like they think like everything's like a rave party, where like everybody like, you go to the rave party and there's these like heady hippies and they like got some sort of social hierarchy where they're all doing cool stuff, and then you want to get in on the scene and like everybody's cool because you got this music, you got the DJs, everybody's like snorting drugs, doing Molly off chicks' tits. Damn, doing Molly off chicks' tits is awesome. What was I talking about? Molly and chicks' tits? Oh yeah, these people are crazy. It's like they think everything is the same way that it's going to be at a music festival, where like all these black guys that you see at the music festivals are like these Rastas, and nobody's a gangbanger. Because when you go to the rave parties, you don't see gangbangers, right? You don't see these like hood people up in the city. Why? Everybody would kick them out. Nobody wants them there because they're hood people who like to like do whack drugs and get into gangbanging and start shooting random people at the raves. And like, we've had these people show up to raves and we've had them murder people at the raves before. And whenever you pull the dead body out of the bushes, it's really, really not cool. It ruins the party. Trust me. It's happened multiple times, almost always at a flare party. And it's because it's like these people that live up in the big cities, like in LA, San Francisco, actually like Oakland. Actually, Oakland's not that bad anymore from what I hear, but like Orange County, Seattle, New York, Chicago, the people who live in these areas in the big city are crazy. Like, they've been on crazy whack drugs for years. They normalize the gangbangers who are like the ex-gang members who like dropped out of the gang, and they're like, they still have kind of some of the gang culture, but they're like against gangs. And so like, this is the normal person in this neighborhood. And so they think that like everything in the entire world is like this la-di-da thing, and then they think that the reason why there's all these problems out here is because of the white people, because the white people don't like the non-whites. Like white people not liking you is the number one determination in the world about whether or not you're successful. If white people don't like you, you're done. Might as well just stick a fork in you, man. And so the politics that these people put, it's like the Democrats control these big cities, and they can't admit that it's their policies that are failing, that are causing the minorities in the big cities to fail, because they need charter schools, because the public schools suck, because the teachers unions suck, and they don't have any sort of financial incentive to actually give you a good product. They can just continue selling you a bad product that actually harms you. Unlike a business, which, you know, you can't just like continue to sell bad products. Like, you got to make a profit. You got to sell them something that they want. And in fact, you actually go an extra mile to give them something that's better than everybody else's. And this is the fundamental thing that is missing in our public education system. But the problem is that these Democrats are run by the public sector employee unions. like SEIU, like the Nancy Pelosi, like the public and sector employee unions control Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris when she was sitting on the Russiagate committee, when she was creating that fake Russiagate probe so that they can investigate Donald Trump, so that they could get him out of the office, so that Kamala Harris could become president of the United States, Joe Biden could be vice president. These people, it's like, in order to come up in this circle, with the PTA parents who are all twacked out on the antidepressants and the anti-anxiety pills, that are having the midlife crises, and then there's the really bland corporate community. In order to actually come up in this community, you need to be some crazy, corrupt person who's just going to tell people what they want to hear, because they don't want to hear what actually needs to be done. Like, what needs to be done is, you can't be nice to everyone and help everybody and expect that to help everybody and then to be nice to everybody. Does that make sense? So you have an intention. Let me explain this in a way that might make a little bit more sense. Okay, I'm an engineer. I like to build products. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to design stuff. And when I make products, I have an intention that I'm going to make the best thing in the entire world. It's going to be great. It's going to have all the bells and whistles. It's going to be the most perfect tool. It's going to do everything. It's going to be perfect. And I thought I was going to be like hitting the home run. And then you put the product together, you put the system together, and it doesn't work exactly like you thought. There's all these different things. Like, there's like every system has upsides and downsides. There's benefits, there's pros and there's cons. Sometimes the cons outweigh the pros. Like, for instance, my camera, Sony, like this camera. It's a Sony RX10 Mark IV, $1,800 new. And this camera I got used for like $1,250 on eBay. And so you're watching me through a full frame, like one of the new ones. And you can see like there's no noise. It looks just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. Right? But then you look through this, and it's like, it's got almost everything's the same, except for one thing. They only use 1 pixel per pixel. So they don't take the whole sensor, like the 6K sensor, and squish it down into 4K. It's 1 pixel per. So if you squish 6K into 4K, it's 1.5 pixels per pixel. So that makes it so there's way less noise. So whereas this camera is great, everything about it is amazing, there's that one thing. There's that one thing about it that is a deal breaker, because whenever I zoom in, whenever I want to do this, boom, you get noise in the image. And that makes it a deal breaker. It's like, I got to get rid of the camera so I could get a different camera so that when I zoom in, it doesn't have that issue. So this is the same. This is what you need to know about government, is that this stuff is everywhere. You try to make a system, you think, I'm going to make the best system, but then something wasn't quite right. And that one thing that wasn't quite right made the entire thing a deal breaker, because I can't perform the function that I wanted to do. So whereas this camera is a good all-in-one camera, I bought a lens and a camera, and so I can't just upgrade the camera or the lens. I have to get a whole new thing. And so this, in terms of government, this would be government waste. This would be wasted time, wasted resources. And so it sounded great. It sounded perfect, except for whenever you look into the details, there was those things. And then the problem is, it's like, I used to be a musician. and I was an electronic musician. I kept buying all this new computer gear. I wanted to do everything digital. I wanted to do everything. Like, made my own touchscreen MIDI controller with like all these knobs and like custom internet protocol to control everything is like TouchOSC. And so whenever the whole system got together, there was so much stuff. So I could have just went and I could have reused. Sorry, wait, hold on. Back up. So I kept upgrading the equipment and upgrading the software plugins would change. Ableton Live would update. You get a new version, and then everything would break. Like with the studio, I've been spending the past couple of days setting up the studio, resetting up, and it's because I keep changing the studio. And so this is why I'm a concern. And I haven't gotten any videos done. I've been here for days, and it's because it keeps changing. So it's like with my own MIDI controller, like it never got built. I spent years building this MIDI controller with a built-in audio interface. It's got custom internal MIDI controls to control any sort of thing that you want, IoT devices. You can make robots with it. Like, it was the best. It had everything. It was the fastest. It was commie code. Everything was free. It's open source. But the problem is, it wasn't finished. Like, there was so much work that you had to do to get anything to done. Like, nothing worked. I couldn't get anything to work. I kept spending all of my time updating, changing, moving, trying to pivot to make the company more successful, and I ended up bankrupting my company. It went from my baby that I was so excited about to a thing that was so painful because I just tried to keep adding stuff. This is the same thing the Democrats are doing. The Democrats, they keep spending money like President Kamala Harris is trying to spend up to $10 trillion, over $10 trillion this year. And when you do that, in the future, we can't buy anything. Like, we're locked into this plan. It's like you just got like $20,000 in credit card debt, and you're going to be spending the rest of your life paying off this credit card debt. You ain't got no money to do anything cool with anymore. Like, it's gone, bro. That's the problem with these Democrats is they keep trying to change stuff. We could have just used something that worked, that was off the shelf, and it might not have been perfect, right? I might have had to use the C++ standard library or Juice. It's a C++ SDK that you make MIDI controllers and software synths out of. But it would have worked. It wouldn't have been as good. It wouldn't have been perfect, but it would have worked. And this is something that if you're not an engineer, if you've never ran businesses before, you have no clue about this because you've never experienced it. You're still in that stage where you're like, I'm going to make the perfect thing. It's going to do everything. It's going to be cheap. It's going to serve everybody's goals. Everybody's going to love it. And then you put the plan into action, and then none of it actually pans out. And then you just instead of actually getting the job done, instead you just went off on a whole bunch of different rabbit trails. You pivoted. You went, we're trying to do his. Then you were like, that didn't work. We'll pivot. Now we'll go over and do this. That's a failure pattern. That is what the Democrats are doing. It is a 100% fail pattern. There's no possible way that we could run a country like this by pivoting plans. Like, we need to have 10 to 20 years where we are actually know what's going to happen in the future. If we can't do that, we can't plan ahead. And if you spent all of the money that we could have done to do anything in the future, our entire future is now written. You just wrote it. Where we could have pivoted, we could have done something else. Instead, now we can't do anything because you locked us into this massive amount of debt that prevents us from doing anything. It's like when you saddle a company down with a massive amount of debt and then they're unable to serve market needs because they had to service their debt. That's what's going on right now, and we have to put a stop to it. Okay, that's it for this story. Hey, stick around. If you like this content, don't forget to smash that like button. In fact, if you want to stomp on it, maybe hit it a couple of times with your fist, don't break your monitor. If you did, it's not my fault. What do we got going on next? Got to hit that. There's so many good stories. If you're unaware with what I'm doing, I read the news the night before. This was supposed to be a morning show, but I spent all day redoing my studio because I keep changing it. Yeah. Because I found these cool LED lights for like really cheap. And then I installed all of them and I didn't like it. I changed it all back. This is why I'm conservative. Why? Because my music career got destroyed from updating my, like, I remember I used to love this Novation Remote SL keyboard. If anybody plays keyboards, you know that first Remote SL, like that was my keyboard. I loved it. I played it all the time. And then I tried to upgrade. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a piano and I'll go with the Ultra Nova. Then I got the Ultra Nova. I didn't like it. It was like, oh, it had all these cool things and it sounded like it was the perfect synthesizer. And then you get it and it's like, none of this worked anyway near how I thought it was going to work. I wanted to use it as a live synth and then you get it and it's like, nah, I can't change patches with this thing. It takes a second to change patches. Like I need a real analog synth. And then after I sold my Novation Remote S1 and then I got the Ultra Nova and then I didn't like that, got rid of it. Then I got a 61 key mini Korg keyboard and then a digital piano. And then I stopped playing piano. And then my piano broke. In fact, I had a Burning Man ticket. I was going to go to Burning Man. I had these 2 epic times at Burning Man. And then I was going to go again. And I had a ticket. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to do any drugs. So I'm going to trade my Burning Man ticket for a piano. That was the worst decision of my life. I really do think it was one of the worst decisions of my life. It was. Don't give up your Burning Man ticket for a piano. What is we're going to read this one here next here, Angela. This one. Sorry, I'm spoiling it. Apologize. I forgot what the title was. What was the title for this video? Okay, BLM antisemitism. Right. All right. Sorry, I thought I had this up. 19. Was it this? Lori Lightfoot. Oh, man. In this next article from Fox News, NYPD investigating hate crime attack on Asian man who had fingers bitten, told to go back to your country. An Asian man was attacked in New York City Tuesday by an assailant who bit the man's finger, told him to go back to your country, police said. Oops, wrong one. The attack, part of a reported growing trend against Asians nationwide in recent months, happened around 10 a.m. Tuesday. Police said a 48-year-old Asian man was repeatedly punched. The suspect used racial language and bit two of his fingers, causing the tip of one to be severed, police said. The victim was transported to Mount Sinai West, where he was treated for cuts to his forehead, a swollen eye, and severed fingertips, Fox 5 reported. No arrests have been made in the attack. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called Tuesday's attack part of an alarming, disgusting pattern. This needs to end, Cuomo said in a statement. I want Asian American community to remember that we stand with them against hate, end quote. The Democratic governor said that he would be, if you stand against hate, you can't be spewing out hate against Trump supporters. It's not okay to hate on white people because they're the oppressor class and they're oppressing the oppressed class, because not all white people are engaging in that. In fact, very, 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 very few of these people are actually doing that. Most of the people who are oppressing people are the rich people who are biasing things towards, like, for instance, Asians make almost twice as much as white people in America. And so the reason for that is not necessarily because their grades are better, but because Asians hire other Asians. So when you're saying that white people have this white privilege, you're kind of making an assumption that all white people aren't poor, and that's absolutely not true. There are 3 times more poor white people than there are poor non-whites in America. Or hold on, there are poor black people. So, I mean, you might say, oh, but that's double the rate of poverty. So what on earth does their skin color have anything to do with it? I mean, let's be real. The GPAs in those big cities where most of the minorities live are horrible. You can't expect somebody who lives in a big city who got didn't even graduate from high school or who has less than a 2.0. You cannot expect that person to make more than minimum wage. It's not a realistic thing. If you want to actually generate more than the minimum wage, there's one requirement for it: that you generate the money, right? They don't just like pay you money because they like you. They actually pay you money because you generate that much money, and that's why they're paying these people the extra money. And a lot of it isn't because of technical skills, because let's face it, the higher your GPA is, it does not correlate to the higher your net worth is. It might correlate to the higher your income is, does not correlate to the net worth, because a lot of millionaires are dumb. Like they're great people. I'm not insulting them. I mean, they're like C students, and being smart doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good at making money. In fact, it can actually mean that you're really good at digging holes and causing a lot of unnecessary work. I know all about that one. I'm an engineer. Trust me. This guy, they didn't want to go out and say it in the article, but there's definitely a trend with these anti-Asian hate crimes, and most of the people committing them are not white people. Look, this is what's going on. The Asians are making twice as much money as the white people. The non-whites are saying that the white people make way too much money. And so then if you compare the Asian next to the white dude, they look like they have insane amounts of money. So the hood people, they like to rob the Asians because the Asians carry more money than the white people, and because they have more money, and so that makes it justified. And most of these people are Democrats. Absolutely 100% are these people Democrats. You would think because they're saying that like systemic racism is problem in America, but it's not the Democrats, right? I mean, why on earth would the Democrats say that systemic racism is the biggest problem in the country and that Democrats are pushing systemic racism, right? They would obviously be saying it because they're trying to attack their political enemies and get political brownie points. So the problem is the people up in these big cities got really bad grades. So the people who run the corporations, they don't want to hire these people up in the big cities. And so this is why these people are super pissed off, and they don't have any right to be pissed off. They made their bed. They need to lay in it. You can't just go around like demanding that people hook you up with a good job. People don't owe you anything, dude. They don't. And if you act like they owe you something, they're going to not like you. They're actually it's going to have the opposite reaction. So these people it's like they're like demanding that they get equal wages as the other people who are working in these big towers. And so they can't just, this stuff just can't happen overnight. Why are the people working up at the top of the ivory tower, why on earth are they even there in the first place? If you're not aware of the ivory tower, it's a metaphor for a corrupt power structure created by racist Democrats because they started the KKK. They used to own slaves, and they like to game hunt and harvest ivory. So how did these people get here in the ivory tower? Did they all just come from poor families, right? How many of you people out there think that most of the people working in the ivory tower came from poor families? I have a bridge to sell you. Obviously, the people who work in the ivory tower got there because their parents worked in the ivory tower and they taught them how to exist in the ivory tower power structure. Maybe that's not so obvious. Most people don't really work in the ivory tower. I personally am an engineer, and I run a business, and so I'm very aware of the hiring practices. And the thing that you have to understand is that people will bias towards their in-group because they're aware of, like, if they don't have any way to measure you up next to somebody else, you got to think that, like, the person who's hiring you for a job, that person probably doesn't know what they're doing. So they kind of have to go off these BS heuristics simply because the person that is hiring you is just not the person that if they knew how to do the job, that person would be doing that job themselves. Do the job, and you do know how to do the job, right? So they use these really stupid heuristics, and I don't like their heuristics. I think personally that they're a bunch of pompous, privileged elitists who they act like whiny little babies. So they're all stressed out. They're crunching. They're trying to hit deadlines for their corporations so that they could hit end of life on that product, so they could give away their youth to make a product for some rich dude who's trying to undercut you and pay you as little as possible. And then it just hits end of life, right? And so these people who work up in the ivory tower, like, they're pissed off. Like, they spent all their life trying to get high up in this ivory tower power structure. And now all the women think that they're wretchedly unattractive. They're boring. They wouldn't be able to stay up late night with their friends. They are squares. And then it's like they have all this stress from hitting the deadlines, and then, like, their wife might be leaving them. They're on the rocks. They're sleeping on a couch, and they take all of this stress out on other people. So it's like they're a bunch of, like, whiny little babies, and then it only takes a little bit of any sort of stress, and then they all just stress out and start flipping out. Rah, 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 rah. And then they turn on people. So this is what you have to understand about the woke mob, who's led by these wokey Pinocchios. They're woke Pinocchios. They live this lie where in the workplace they're able to use feminism and anti-racism in order to fire whoever they want. If they don't like you, if you're a white dude, and the chick who they promoted to be a manager because she's a woman and they're trying to hit their diversity quota, if that chick gets pissed off that they think that you're sexist or racist, they're going to come after you because they're crunching. They're trying to hit a deadline. They're having fights with their partner. Their wife left them. Their parents died. They're having a mental breakdown. They're on antipsychotics, antidepressants. Like, these people are absolutely not the kind of person that you're trying to aspire to be. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, they got a fancy job, right? But they're crazy. They're not only are they crazy, they're bigots. They're absolute bigots. So they won't even hire people like me, right? So, like, I wrote the world's fastest way to print a number. That's the one claim to fame that I have. I found a way to get rid of more than half the division instructions. More than half? How do you do that? Statistics. Discrete math. And so they wouldn't even hire me. What on earth makes you think that they would hire this dude? This dude who beat up the Asian dude, like that one. What on earth makes you think that they would hire one of these people from up in the city that got a 1.5 GPA, or they didn't graduate from high school and they got 3 felonies? I have a bridge to sell you. Well, obviously they're not hiring these people because they're complete fuck ups, right? It's not that they don't want the people there. It's that they're extremely loud. They're extremely stupid. They think they know everything. They do a lot of drugs. They got all kinds of crime problems. They disrupt everything. Like, you can't have these people in an engineering lab. You can't. Because they're going to sit around, they're going to be like calling up their friends, texting people, bringing in people to come see them at work so they could sell some drugs to them. It's like, obviously, this is the reason why you're not making as much money as the Asians. It has nothing to do with the white people. I did not make these people in the hood sell crack, meth, and heroin. I did not. I did, however, make them smoke marijuana, dance, and listen to hip-hop music. Don't tell anybody. Just come over to my house. But it's like, they try to say that it's the Republicans that are the racist ones. But the reality of the situation is that they're actually the ones who are the racist ones, because the most Republicans live in small to medium-sized cities. Most Democrats live in big cities. What they're trying to say is that it's not the Democrats who run these big cities that is the reason why they fell apart and there's so much crime and hate crime, violence, drug use, mental health problems, homelessness. No, it's the racist Republicans in those poor rural states. Those are the ones that are oppressing the minorities and the women in the big Democrat-run cities. And then they create this culture that sucks so bad, and it's so hard to live in these cities because they keep packing in more and more immigrants. Like right now, how many people are coming across? Like Joe Biden has, it's like the opened up the borders, basically telling the immigrants, we're here, we're going to pay you to mass immigrate here to the United States. We'll give you Harris handouts. Just come here. You'll not only will you get federal benefits, you'll also get state benefits if you move to New York. And then, of course, now you got millions of people flooding up this way. And the thing is the Democrats, all they want are new voters, because the political dividing line's already drawn in the sand. The only way that you can get new votes is by switching Republicans or independents to Democrats, or by bringing on new immigrants. So this is why they support the policies that they do, because if they just keep packing more and more immigrants into the big cities, and then you just keep giving them socialism, you're like, yeah, no, just come in. We'll give you handouts. We'll pay you to move here. And then what happens? The rent keeps going sky high, and the wages keep going down low till they hit the floor. What you've done is you created a permanent underclass of immigrants, because they all have to compete for each other for the low wages. And then you got these cartels. They're selling massive amounts of narcotics, causing like 90,000 fentanyl overdoses last year. They're like overdose deaths. Sorry. They're killing our people in mass numbers. They're getting the drugs from the Chinese military. The Chinese military is flooding our country with fentanyl so that it can kill our people, so that our people will become dope addicts, so that we'll become dependent on government handouts, and we'll stop getting into science, technology, engineering, and math, and we won't be competitive with them anymore. So I don't know whether or not Democrats are purposely, consciously trying to destroy our country and help out the Chinese, but every single thing that they do does that. And this is the canary in the coal mines. These anti-Asian hate crimes should keep you up at night if you live in these big cities, because if you're a white dude and you're walking down the street in one of these big cities, some black dude might come up to you and hit you in the back of the head with a brick while you're walking down the street. If you're an Asian, some black guy might come up and try to rob you because you carry a lot more money, because they hate white people because of all this propaganda that these Democrats are spewing out, trying to blame Republicans for all the stuff that the Democrats are doing in the big city. And sadly, the people in the big cities are unintelligent enough that they have no idea that they're just being used by these rich liberals who are trying to blame the other people for why they won't hire them. I got clued into this because I used to be an ambassador for Portland State University, and my job was to recruit minorities to replace the white people at the school, the white dudes. They wanted younger, more diverse people. My boss was a Latina, and she said, we weren't looking for the black kids because their GPAs were too low. We were only looking for the Latinos, the Asians, and the women. I didn't think anything about it at the time because our team was diverse. I was the token older white dude. I know as insane as it sounds, I was the diversity hire. But that's the thing, is they're trying to cover up the fact that they're not hiring and recruiting the black kids because their grades are too low because of the Democrat policies in the big cities. So if the Democrats would just stop with this whole government is the best solution and get rid of the teachers unions, get rid of the public schools, and go with charter schools and give them a profit motive to give you a better product, then they wouldn't have this. None of this stuff would happen. But what's the problem here? You do that, now you got to take out the public employee unions that control the Democrat Party. That's the number one problem about what's going on. And if you aren't aware of this stuff, you wouldn't be able to connect the dots. But I just connected the dots for you. Hey, let's head on to this next story here. Stick around. What are we doing next? We're going to be looking at some BLM anti-Semitism stuff. As soon as I can find it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to search for it on the internet. It looks like maybe I have a hard time reading stuff in front of my face on live stream because I'm trying to go too fast. Sometimes it'll be right in front of my face and I can't see it. Nope, that was it. Here, I'm gonna have to search for the story real quick. Apologize. Dang it. Oops. Dang it. I had the article. It's about a BLM being anti-Semites. There's an incident in LA where the BLM started. I don't remember exactly what they're doing, so I can't really tell you. I might be SOL on this one, though. I do so humbly apologize. I'm going to look through it one more time and then we'll just go with a different article. Oh, shoot. That was the other thing. Nope. Well, if I did have an audience, let's just read this article here. This next article from New York Post. Black Lives Matter comes out in solidarity with Palestinians. BLM has thrown its full support behind the Palestinians in the ongoing bloody conflict between Hamas backers and Israel. So let me get this straight. Are they backing Palestine or are they backing Hamas? They're backing Hamas. Let's go into the reason behind this. Why on earth are they backing Hamas? The reason why is because BLM is a Marxist organization. If you're unfamiliar, they got that video of one of the founders of BLM claiming that she is a trained Marxist. So when you say stuff like that you don't really say that stuff lightly. It means that you've been in communist indoctrination sessions. So part of the indoctrination sessions are that you are exposed to what is called dialectic materialism. This is the epic class struggle between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, where the proletariat smashes the bourgeoisie and destroys them. So that's what BLM is trying to do. That's why it's called a Marxist movement, because it engages in Marxist dialectic materialism. Not that they're promoting communism outright, but they're promoting dialectic materialism. But so the Hamas started firing these rockets first. Hamas knows very, very well that when they fire rockets, they're going to have an overwhelming military response. So what ends up happening is they fire these rockets so that they can get children killed, so that the international community will then turn on Israel. So if you'll notice if you take a moment to notice Palestinian children bearing the brunt of an Israeli-Hamas conflict, here from the Chicago Sun-Times, and that was, got a green check mark on that one, right? All right, children are being subjected to extensive trauma in Israel's bombardment of Gaza Strip. For some, it's trauma they've seen repeatedly throughout their short lives. So what they do, the Israelis tell the Palestinians where they're going to be firing at, because they're not trying to kill civilians, because they know it's a PR game, that Hamas is firing rockets to receive an overwhelming response so that people die and become martyrs. So what happens is you get people who put children in the areas where they know the bombs are going to go off at. And this is why you see mostly children dying. It's not because they're targeting children. It's because they put children in the areas for them to become martyrs, because they don't want to kill themselves, because one, they're trying to fight, and two, it's better PR move if they utilize children. So this is disgusting. This is the most disgusting thing that you could possibly have happen. And it's like you got a crack house up in the ghetto, like with these radical Islamic terrorist cells, are a lot like a crack house. And so what do you get in the crack house? You get crazy parents who have their kids who are doing all kinds of crack, and then the kids are running around the crack house. That's basically how this stuff works. When you got a radical terrorist cell, you have something that's very illegal, where now all law enforcement gets kicked out, and then now you're going to end up with the worst of the worst people that have horrible behaviors that are going to put their children in the middle of this behavior. This is the fundamental problem with this Hamas organization, is that they're willing to kill people for publicity. And that's just a disgusting thing. The Israelis have tried over and over and over again to try to reason with these people, but it always ends up being this radical Islamic terrorist coalition that ends up destroying it. It's not that the Jews don't want to say, hey, let's be fam. It's that the people are so obsessed with this Islamism that the reality for them is different. It's like everything to them they see as the West dominating, doing these immoral acts. And they're utilizing this immorality in order to utilize white supremacy to control the world. So this is the narrative that they have. It's not a true narrative, because the reality is that people were white supremacists because they had the most advanced technology in the world. And then they invented something called social Darwinism. Darwin invented evolution, and then they perverted evolution in order to mean that, like, you would, from having wars, that you would rapidly evolve. And they were actually right. They had a lot of disgusting beliefs, but World War II was the most rapid period of evolution. We went from most people not having electricity to having atom bombs and spaceships and this modern world. And it all came from people fighting. So this is why these people justify it. This is why the communists cannot compete with economics. They cannot compete on ideas. They can only compete on censorship and on the battlefield. And that is fundamentally the strategy of the communists moving forward, is to overcome the deficiencies of socialism and communism through combat, through staying in a state of war. And then this will allow you to create the advanced technologies that they're trying to compete with the capitalists. And so, a long time ago, we didn't have the internet. And then now we have the internet, and then now everything is different. So, like, people don't believe in social Darwinism anymore. They don't believe that white people are genetically superior because we no longer have the most advanced technology anymore. So now the Asians have more advanced technology, and it's because they're working for cheaper, and they're manufacturing goods for the rest of the world, which is allowing them to generate expertise that allows them to then develop more advanced technology. And what am I saying? So with the Palestinians, the BLM people they're siding with the Palestinians because they bought into this anti-Semitic propaganda. What they don't understand is that anti-Semitism comes from communism, that it does not come from Nazism, that, Christians have always disliked people who aren't Christians, but the anti-Semites believed what they did because the communists were pushing this Jews control the world thing because they want you to think that there's this religion that you're not a part of that controls the world. They have wealth that their family gave to them. They don't share with people outside of their in-group, and they control your government, and you have to overthrow them. This is the point of the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. So they're using the same conspiracy theory here against the Jews in Israel. They're trying to say the Israelis control U.S., they control the media, they're like 30% of the millionaires or the billionaires are Jewish, which is insane. But there's the Democrats and Black Lives Matter are stoking anti-Semitism because they buy this propaganda. They don't see that the Palestinians are firing rockets so that they can get the Israelis to use overwhelming military force where they know they have children at, so they can martyr the children so that they could ruin the other people's brand to turn the rest of the world against them. If they knew that, they probably wouldn't side with the Palestinians. They would probably say these people are like gangbangers in the hood who do all kinds of really bad crimes, who are trying to pull a scam and then get scam donations. That's pretty close to exactly what these people are doing. Damn, I'm gonna look for that article here real quick. I really want to go into this anti-Semitism thing. It really threw me off. I apologize. I had an article about some BLM people in LA that were shouting out all these anti-Semitic things, and it was huh? What the hell is this? I don't know. This is from Jewish Press. This article said this is just some odd thing I just found on the internet. Looks like it's criticizing BLM is unforgivable. Killing Jews is understandable. What? What is this? It says in 2019, Rena Schnurb, a 17-year-old girl who, anytime you see an article and they start the article with a story, you should really, that should trigger that this is probably fake news. So one of the most common fake news methods is that they start it with a story. So they want to anthropomorphize it. They want you to put you in someone's shoes. And then when you're in those shoes, they walk you through a series of events that shows you the logic behind why they came to the conclusion that they did. This should set off alarm bells. Ding, 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 ding. This is propaganda. Why can't you just put the bottom line up front and just tell me what it is? I mean, it's only like 1 or 2 paragraphs, right? No, they don't want to do that. I have no idea what this is, but damn. Sorry, I apologize. I'm wasting your time. This is over. I bombed this story. Here in this next article from the Daily Mail, New York Attorney General opens criminal probe into Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg. The New York State Attorney General office has opened a criminal... Sorry. Apologize. They opened into with claims of a new report piling the pressure on the ex-president. The New York State Attorney General's office has opened a criminal investigation into a key lieutenant of former President Donald Trump, Alan Weisselberg. Weisselberg is the longtime CFO at the Trump Organization, based in New York City. Sources say probe will increase pressure on Weisselberg to flip against Trump. On Tuesday, New York AG office released a statement saying its civil investigation into Donald Trump has become a criminal probe. See, I got a problem with this. It's because they've been trying to lock this dude up. These. Hold on, which one is this? Is it the South? So it's is it the Southern District of New York? Is it the? No, that's that's federal district. So this is the state attorney general. And then who is the New York State Attorney General? Let's look this guy up. You should always look people up. even though Wikipedia is trash, you can see this person is a Democrat, and she's trying to make a name for herself. So she's trying to do a political prosecution to target Trump. I mean, with most rich people, you could probably find some sort of tax evasion somewhere. I don't really actually, it's like, you got Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen definitely did some dirty stuff, definitely did some tax evasion, I personally think that they should have paid more hush money to the hookers, and they should have paid more hookers. He should have banged more hookers. Personally think that he did the world a tremendous disfavor by not banging more hookers, because if everybody just banged more hookers, and then they wouldn't be listening to their wives, and the world would just be a much better place. So I really do think that prostitution should be legal, and this whole thing with Stormy Daniels is like, okay, so what's the problem here? Is it like Melania's not having threesomes? Is she like not putting out like she used to? I don't know, because it seems like all the dudes, when you actually talk to them, they're all trying to get some poon. They're totally down to bang a hooker. But then it's like, you put them in public, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, no, I would never do that. You're like, really? You'd never do that? Seriously? You'd never actually bang a hooker? You're weird, dude. I've never paid a hooker, but I've got like a bunch of freaky chick friends from back in my rave days, and definitely banged some hookers and had a threesome with the hookers one time. And I think you should probably try that too. You should probably do a bunch of cocaine too. Yeah. Just tell them I told you to do that too. Send me pictures. All right, so back to this article. So you got the black attorney general, who's a Democrat in New York, who is trying to come after Trump because he's orange man bad. And Trump responded to the news that the investigation of the Trump organization was criminal in a scathing post attacking New York attorney Letitia James. Weisselberg has not been accused of any crimes. So just the mere accusation that they're looking into crimes is all that she has to do. That's the problem. And this is why typically prosecutors won't actually go after politicians if they know that they've committed crimes. And it's because it can cause a lot more problem. Like let's say they did something that was illegal. Like, let's say it was tax evasion, or the hush money with the hookers was like some, there was some sort of crime that they could find them on. So let's say this is the norm now. Anytime there's a politician, then the prosecutors can then just say that they're looking into pressing charges against this person when they don't have any charges, and then destroy that person's chance of getting reelected or elected, right? Obviously, this is bad. Obviously, we should not be doing this because that's called a political prosecution. It's not intended to serve justice. It's intended to destroy another politician, to prop up politicians that you support. That's called corruption. But this kind of stuff is just par for the course for these Democrats. It's because most Democrats live in big cities. Where do you think most corrupt people live at? The country. Right. Like there's massive amounts of corruption in small to medium-sized cities that are run by Republicans. Right. I'm sorry. Did you just dose me with drugs? I mean, what did I just hear? I mean, I have to be like flying to the moon or something, right? No. These people just, it's normal for them to blame other people and to hate other people so much that you're willing to tolerate lies, that you're willing to tolerate corruption. This is the problem with city people. This is par for the course for city people. City people are some of the most hateful people in the entire world. Seriously. Seriously. Try going to a town in the Midwest. Just go out to some football game at some random high school out in Missouri and see how nice the people are. Right? So like they're pretty nice. And then go over to New York, right? And then cut somebody off, right? I mean, that could be dangerous, dude. I mean, someone might shoot you. Yeah, these city people are some of the most hateful people out there. See, that's why they're trying to push all this stuff, like saying like the white people are racist, and it's because most minorities live in big cities. And so in these big cities, it's not mostly white people. A lot of these big cities are mostly black people, or mostly blacks and Latinos, and the whites are the minority. So when they say the white people are racist, what that means is that they got good jobs. They're not hiring the hood people because they're complete fuck ups. Their grades suck and they're degenerate losers. And that there's more non-whites than whites. So the majority of the people is going to write the narrative for the minority of the people. So they're going to try to tell you that it's Trump and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, the people who pledged an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the quote-unquote anti-government group, that these are the people that are the people who are causing all of the problems in these big cities. And that's why they need to have these political prosecutions. And that's why they justify it. Because they hate the other people so bad. They hate Donald Trump so bad, they're willing to tolerate lies. Because it like, anytime you tell most Democrats that Kamala Harris sat on the Russiagate committee and that Russiagate was a political investigation in order to destroy Donald Trump, and that if you tell them that the Democrats are utilizing ballot harvesting in order to rig the elections in the favor of the Democrats, along with mail-in voting, then they would say, that's awesome. They don't care about the rest of the country. They don't care. They don't care what... They think that it's awesome that the people that are in the big cities control everything in the entire country because they get to utilize the density of the big cities in order to ballot harvest, because the most Republicans live in small and medium-sized cities where the density population is much lower. So they physically have to transfer longer distance in order to ballot harvest. And it becomes exceedingly more difficult to be able to get those ballots the farther from this away from the city that you get. And so this makes it so that if you ballot harvest in big cities, you can rig elections because you can use apps that can show you whether or not the person's ballot, what party they are registered with. And then you can throw out Republican ballots. And then you can also dump money into targeted areas where you know there's a lot of Democrats in the big cities, and then ballot harvest there. And there's just no way that the Republicans can do anything because that most of them live in small, medium-sized cities where the density is too low to be able to compete with that. And you tell Democrats about it, they don't care. They really don't. They think it's awesome. Every single one that I've ever talked to has said that's awesome. They love it. That they hate Trump. They hate Republicans, that they're white supremacists. And you're like, It's like they think it's like a sin for a white person to not like a non-white, and then it's totally okay for non-white people to dislike white people. That's the problem with these people. Fundamentally, they're hateful, rotten people. That's why they do these political prosecutions. That's why George Floyd in that Officer Chauvin trial, they convicted this man guilty of killing George Floyd when they don't even know how George Floyd died. They did not even take into account that the guy had 14 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl, and it's like 0.75. Well, it depends. I heard he has like 3 lethal. It depends. The minimum dose that I've seen that had been used to say that somebody OD'd on fentanyl was 0.75 nanograms per milliliter. So it's actually 14 lethal doses of meth, of fentanyl, and then 2 lethal doses of meth. 2. It was like 19 nanograms per milliliter. And then, first off, okay, so they're assuming Officer Chauvin put George Floyd on the ground in the breech position, and that they're assuming that if George Floyd was put on his back, that this would have magically saved him. No, dude. I mean, I personally have taken critical thinking classes, and I studied philosophy in college, and I'm an engineer and a programmer. So to me, this is pretty obvious. It's like, no, correlation is not causation. But to other people, they don't know. The thing you got to understand about authoritarians is there's one telltale way to spot an authoritarian. You could spot them from a mile away if you had magnifying glasses to do so. Or, sorry, binoculars or something. They get extremely pissed off when you say the wrong thing. That's the thing. Like, people who support freedom, they're like, oh, he said the wrong thing. Oops. Oh, what was that you meant? Oh, yeah, I don't know really exactly what we're saying. But, you just kind of forget about it, right? But not with these authoritarian thoughts. It's like you criticize feminism. And they got this authoritarian feminist power structure here up in the, like in Eugene. The women get everything. They're like, they act like they're like oppressed, right? And then like all the guys like bow down and give them anything. If anybody talks smack about them, they'll go kick their ass. And then apparently these women are oppressed, right? And then white people are the oppressors, and then it's all the white people but me, right? It's like all the other, no, it's not me that's the white person that oppresses the non-whites. It's all of the white people except me. I am the one who is better than everyone else. And this means that I am morally pure, so everything that I do is justified. So that means the mob, the outrage mob, the political prosecutions, that means it's all okay because of the way that I feel. That's fundamentally the biggest problem with these people is it's all based off of their feelings. You can't trust a single word that they say. All right, let's head on to the next article. Running out of time. I think maybe I need to just close up for the day. How much time do I got? I'm at 1 hour 44. Let's find one more. Here, next article from Fox News. The National Guard is going to be leaving D.C. this week, the Pentagon says. Going to be leaving on Sunday, May 23rd. That's in 2 days from now. Your next article from Daily Mail. Kroger follows Target, Walmart, Costco, and Trader Joe's in ditching face masks in certain states. I think we still have a mask mandate here in Oregon. These Democrat politicians suck. I have nothing against wearing a mask on private property if someone wants me to. Like, if you want me to go over, in order for me to go to your house, like I got to wear a funny hat, or like I can't be there. Like call cops, say I'm trespassing. Like if I want to go to your house, then I will wear a funny hat at your house. But if I think your hat is stupid and I don't want to be at your house, I'm not going to go to your house or wear your funny hat. Right? I think this is kind of the logic that most people that you should follow with the mask is that if somebody's home and they can kick you out and call the cops for trespassing and they want you to wear a mask or you got to leave, then yeah, sure. Right? But the state, these people royally F everything up. They're run by idiots. They're not trying to sell a product and make a profit. They're not trying to improve the product. They're trying to push their own political ideologies that are half-baked, not well thought out. So when they push masks, it's like, first off, what's the effect of pushing the masks on people in the pandemic? Well, you're going to cause them to get panicked. You have to wear it is so dangerous that you have to wear a mask. That's how dangerous it is. So you need to be afraid and you need to give up your rights. You no longer have a right to speak on private property unabridged. No, they took that right. They said that you speaking on other people's property is like harming other people. It's like, okay, so let me get this straight. So apparently these masks work so good at blocking droplets that you can wear the mask and it will block the droplets. Okay, apparently then only one person needs to wear a mask, right? Well, they work so good. I mean, they block all the droplets, right? It's like, okay. So what is going to be the effect of making everyone wear masks? It's going to cause them to turn on the people who don't wear the masks. And then who are the people who don't wear the masks? The Republicans. Right. That's the problem. See, it's like it always starts off at some good idea that they're trying to help somebody out. It's this repeating story. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like there's good intentions all over it. Plaques say this is going to be the best ever. And then you got reality. And then whenever you start implementing these rules, now people start to like go crazy and then start like attacking people and trying to dominate people. And then it starts out with this idea of like, okay, we're trying to reduce the infection rate. All right, why are we trying to do that? Oh, we're trying to save people's lives. Whose lives? Oh, well, most people who die are old and fat. Like, okay. I'm not old. I'm not fat. I would prefer to not be around old and fat people. Okay, so if the old and fat people kick the bucket, what would happen? Oh, they would use less resources and then I would get the inheritance money. Okay. All right. So how does this financially make sense for me to try to like reduce the death rate, right? It doesn't. It doesn't. So I'm not saying that you should try to infect people. You should not be a bad person, but I'm trying to make a point here that people don't have a financial motivation to do this, right? But you got to look at things from people just went insane. They went insane. I made COVID ventilators, like a open source ventilator, and I modeled the human immune system for an AI project, partially modeled. I didn't get too detailed. Biomimicry. So I know a lot about how the immune system works. I know a lot about how you treat COVID patients. And what I found was that when I was trying to make this open source ventilator, that I was trying to help, but in reality, I had a secret profit motive, actually. So I was designing this thing that I'm claiming I'm trying to help the world with, when in reality, I'm just trying to help myself. This is something people don't see this stuff. I'm telling you, if you only ran businesses and tried to design electronics and make software and run businesses and then run a YouTube channel, you probably see all these little branding things. But the vast majority of people, they don't have the ability to say, okay, well, we're going to start with this good intention. I'm going to try to make a product, and then I'm going to try to help people. So I'm going to try to make my COVID ventilator, and then what's going to happen? Then eventually it gets used, and then what happens? There's all these like things that you require like doctors for, and then where it was my good idea at first, it was way beyond my league. It was not a project that anybody would have ever used my ventilator. In fact, it was designed after a large gravity bong too. And but this was what woke me up about the insanity about COVID. Was I realized after building the ventilator and learning everything about how horrible it is to get hooked up to a ventilator, to get intubated, and I realized that people are doing a lot of harm here trying to help people. So I occupied time that other open source developers could have used in order to develop their product. The one dude donated $100 to the project, and he could have donated that to another project that would have had more of a high chance of success. But the thing is it's like people just go into this mode of doing things and trying to build things and make systems. And in the beginning of making these systems, it sounds perfect or sounds nice and easy. You're like, okay, we're just gonna make people wear masks, and then we're gonna make them social distance, and then everything's gonna be fine. Okay. And then you start to get into the weeds of exactly the way it goes. And it's like, okay, well, you make them wear masks, and then it increases the temperature of your mouth, which increases the amount of bacteria that grows in your mouth, which increases periodontal or gum disease, which increases your risk of dying from heart disease and then heart disease increases your risk of dying from COVID 900%. Like, okay. So it started off as this good intention of we're going to help people, and then you implemented it, and then fundamentally you did the exact opposite of what you were trying to do, and you harmed a lot of people, and you made their breath stink really, really bad from making them wear masks all day. And this is a repeating story over and over and over and over again, and you're doomed to fall in this trap every single time, because the thing is it's just, people are just like that. People they'll make all kinds of complex, elaborate organizations and hierarchies that are trying to like achieve an objective, and then you put a whole bunch of people in these organizations, and then everybody has to talk to each other. And so here, I'm going to use my document camera for you, and I've taken so long to set this up, and I've never actually been able to use it, but I have something I can use it for. All right. So what do we got? I can draw a graph here for you. Here, let me Read that? Yeah.
I did use this video NA. All right. Okay. Sweet. I got a document camera. I did one show on this, real or RSS commentary with science, and I will eventually resume doing the science show at some point in time, I swear. Gotta go through my, find a blank page here. Oh, the document camera is not on. Hopefully this should talk some sense into some of you to turn you a little bit more conservative. So you made an organization, right? So let's say you got an organization and you got two people. Oops. All right. So there's an organization, there's two people. So these are lines of communication. Right. So we got these lines of communication. And then let's add in another node. As soon as I gotta get rid of that autofocus, it sucks. So now let's add in 3 nodes. Okay, so the first one, we had two lines of communication. So one person can communicate to this dude can communicate back. So now here we have there's 2. Now we're going to do 4. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got this. Now you can see very quickly we're starting to run out of room and it's starting to get very sloppy. I only have 4. So now we have to start drawing these things in a way so that we can make it so they don't, because like look how sloppy that was. This is the point. Like this is on purpose. So let's draw it again with 1, 2, 3, 4, and then each one is just 2 ways because now we have to do a trick. In order to make these people communicate, in order to actually make it so that we can make sense of it, we have to do a trick to minimize this drawing by saying each of these is 2 ways, right? But there's so many of them, we have to minimize them. This is the problem. This is why you should be a conservative, because this is mathematical fact. Every single time you have one of these things, you're going to have 2 to the n minus 1 lines of communication. Right? We got 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 4, and then hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? To the n minus 1, right? 4, 2 to the n is 8, and then minus 1. 1, 2, 3. This one's 2 to the 2, that's 4. minus 2. I think it's 2 to the n minus 2. Not minus 1. So this is, let's do 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? 9, 10. And then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 25. So it's 20. I forget exactly how that goes, but there's a lot. So like whenever you have like 100 of these nodes, it starts to get really. This is the problem with just building more and more organizations. These lines start to like get really, 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 really messy real quick. And that's the way that any sort of organization is going to go whenever you keep building new organizations and you just think like everything's just like you're just going to start these projects and it's just going to be a cakewalk. You're just going to immediately, like, you're going to be done. You're going to get it done in a week or two, and that's going to be it. There's going to be no extra work after that. This is a logical fallacy. So this is the problem with this mass thing, is that whenever you created these all these rules for people to follow, now all of a sudden the people are okie dokie. Okie dokie Pinoki. Okie dokie. Is this the last one? I know I want to read them all, but then I start commenting on them and then it turns into hours. Here in this next article from the New York Post, 224-pound Russian woman reportedly killed husband with her buttocks.
The woman faces some heavy-duty justice for sitting on her husband and strangling him to death with her massive buttocks during a boozy dispute, a report said. The poor gentleman there. At least it wasn't self-asphyxiation, right? Tanya O allegedly refused to let Adar go even as he begged for forgiveness, East West News reported. Adar's daughter saw him pinned face down on the bed and ran to seek help from neighbors in the Russian city Novokuznetsk. According to the news outlet, which cited evidence in the case, a female neighbor who arrived reportedly decided the couple were in the midst of a domestic dispute and left. Tanya said she merely wanted to calm her husband down, but the couple had been drinking. Adar died from asphyxia from blocking the respiratory system as his face was wedged into the mattress. As Tatiana sat on his neck, using her legs so he could not lift it, a medical examination found. The wife, quote, strangled to death with her buttocks after drinking too much alcohol, end quote, according to the local media cited by East West. Sounds pretty Russian, man. During a trial, Tatiana was convicted of causing death by negligence after a murder charge was dropped. No. But the investigative committee has announced it would be calling for new murder charges against Tatiana, who had been angry after drinking heavily. After Adian stopped showing signs of life, the accused, frightened, shook him and shouted at him to wake up. Oh, that sucks. Just an accident, huh? Well, I mean, I know I shouldn't have to say this, but if your partner is that big, you should not allow them to put their butt on your face because it could suffocate you. You know, you live and you learn. I had no idea that your overweight girlfriend's butt could suffocate you. But I guess people choke on their own puke, so yeah. Here, actually, we've got another article here. Don't forget to smash that like button here before we get into it. Here from Breitbart. Dark money group backed by Facebook targets Josh Hawley on Facebook. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, is one of the most vocal critics of big tech in the Senate, is being targeted with a political attack ads on Facebook by a Facebook-backed dark money group. Woo. Damn, really? Wait, can we do it without there? All right, yay. The advocacy group American Eagle began running ads against Hawley this week, has so far spent around $800 on messaging micro-targeted to residents of the Washington, D.C. area. The ads from the big tech-backed group accused Senator of threatening the vibrant startup and small business economy, end quote. Let's look up, whenever they have stories about senators, you probably should actually look up the person, at least be able to see their face. Right. And so this guy, Right. So this is the real reason. This is why you should look people up. Like, don't just read the story. Subscribe to RSS commentary so that you can get this knowledge. So Josh Hawley, I knew that he sounded familiar. Josh Hawley was one of the Republican congressmen who obstructed the vote. So now we're in Section 230 land. Let's go look at Section 230. Section 230. What does it say? Section 230. This is the what the big tech companies are using as the justification for censoring political speech. So we're going to see in Section A, subsection 3. Hold on. So it's Section 230A3. And it says the internet and other interactive computer services offer a forum for true diversity of political discourse. This is the key statement out of here, I think, is completely disregarded. So the United States Constitution says government can't abridge free speech. So what is going on is Facebook is utilizing targeted ads, using insider information from Facebook and so this senator was a part of the group of people who was obstructing the vote because they said the election was rigged, and Facebook doesn't allow you to say the election was rigged. So this person, this Josh Hawley person, was in violation of the Facebook rules. What exactly did they say in the article again? And that he's threatening the vibrant startup and small business economy. Reading on the article, Facebook is helping set up a new political advocacy group in D.C. called American Edge, hoping to dissuade lawmakers against regulating big tech companies, according to a report in the Washington Post. According to the report, the Facebook-backed lobbying group will attempt to convince federal lawmakers that big tech companies are, quote, essential to the U.S. company and future of free speech. So let me get this straight. It's essential to the U.S. economy that we maximize the amount of time that people spent on Facebook. How much money does that cost the economy? Let's look at that. Okay. So here's one from NBC News, and it says, wasted time on Facebook could be costing us trillions of dollars in lost productivity. This was from 2016. I think I've even read this exact article. So when he's saying that Facebook is essential to our economy, what he actually means is that it costs a lot of money in wasted productivity, and that's their profits, and they don't get a lot of money for your views. Like they only get $1 or $2, or I think I read it was $7 per user per quarter or something like that. I can't remember. I think it was per year, but don't quote me. I can't remember. It was quarterly or per year. I think it was per year, $7 per year. So if you paid $7 to Facebook per year, you could actually, or if you gave them $7.01 per month, then they would be making more money off of you from the subscription than the advertising, right? But so Facebook wants to censor your speech. Mark Zuckerberg gave that $500 million donation to rig the 2020 election with ballot harvesting boxes and mail-in voting. So if you look this up, so the reports on here are not going to say the same thing. They're going to say 300 million that he donated. It's actually 500 million, and that's because they left out some stuff. Or this one, like this one's saying that Priscilla Chan dropped 350 million. They dropped an extra 100 million, and then there was another $50 million that they put in some other stuff. So this article here from Fox News via Yahoo says states pursuing laws to curb Zuckerberg spending on election. This was from April 22nd, 2021. And so what happened in the 2020 election was Zuckerberg put all this money in to push mail-in voting and to get ballot harvesting boxes. Ballot harvesting is where private individuals collect ballots. So the problem is they didn't have any sort of cameras on these ballot harvesting boxes. And at night they had some solar powered cameras on some of them, not all of them. And then they would go out at night. And so this allows people to go in to the ballot harvesting boxes, use an app that can scan the ballot name, and it tells you what political party they're at. In fact, I even have my own open source version if you want to contribute to an app. It's called Ballot Harvester. It's on GitHub. Not very much progress, but we're if you want to help, that'd be great, right? So the other thing that they did was Zuckerberg paid the election officials and the election judges. He also paid this, gave a bunch of funding to. There was a hodgepodge of organizations. One of these organizations that was participating was Rock the Vote, which is a student organization with known Marxist ties that they gave this student organization with known Marxist ties the ability to go into the computers to enter in ballots. They had the admin password, and it's not a state election official at all. And there was all kinds of stuff like this. This is why the Republicans were saying that the election was rigged, is because there was a massive amount of this stuff going on. There was the people who put up the pizza boxes in the Michigan Convention Center. There was the water leak at the what was that? State Farm Arena, where they're like, oh, we got it was apparently a toilet leaked, and then they had to kick everybody out. And then they had that incident where they pulled the ballots out from underneath the table, that like box of ballots, and they were counting ballots. They kicked everybody out. They told everybody we're continuing to count ballots, or we're stopping counting ballots. And then they leave, and then they pull those crates out with all those ballots, and like, who knows where they came from. And then they started scanning these ballots while nobody's around. And so hold on, go back to the article. And so these people have Mark Zuckerberg put in a whole bunch of money on that. And then they start censoring people. So the dude's giving money to politics, saying he's just donating the money. Yeah, right. Like Mark Zuckerberg's going to give $500 million to the U.S. government for tax money. Yeah, right. No, the federal government is trying to break up Facebook. And so Mark Zuckerberg desperately needed Donald Trump to not win because they were going to remove the Section 230 platform protections. And from doing this, now Facebook has entered into politics. Let's go back to that Section 230. Where are we at? The Section 230A3. It says the internet and other interactive computer services offer a forum for true diversity of political discourse. Now, if you look at RSS Commentary YouTube channel, you'll notice there's only 4 videos. And then you'll notice there's a pound 125 here, right? Like, where did all the rest of the videos go, right? Well, they're hidden. There's like 600 videos or something, right? And, but they've been censoring me and they banned me. They gave me a suspension because I was talking about the same thing that I just said about the Mark Zuckerberg and the ballot harvesting thing. Not that I'm saying anything about any sort of Dominion system stuff or whatever, but specifically I was talking about the ballot harvesting. And then I got a suspension. 2 of them, they also hit me again for I said this here on Twitter. I'm still banned on Twitter. It says, thank you for your appeal. I had tweeted, and I think it was, I can't remember. It was like some NPR article or something. I can't remember. It says, at Amy Meek, yes, the false prophet Mohammed was a pedophile who had a 69-year-old child bride named Aisha. They worship a pedophile, cut women's clits off, female genital mutilation, and make them wear burqas. If you say anything about that, you're Islamophobic. And so then I got banned. I've been banned for 3 or 4 months or something. And it's because I criticized Islam. And then I also criticized Islam on YouTube. And then I got a strike for that. And then I got another strike for saying that Eric Gardner was fat. And that's the reason why he had a heart attack. And it wasn't but what I meant was it wasn't the cops' fault. But they're censoring me over some BS because really they want more advertising revenue. They're apolitical. They don't care anything about what you actually do. They just want the advertising money. They base their morality and what they get pissed off about based around that marketing. That's what it's built. When they get upset about when you said something, it's because it was worth something to them. That's why. If it wasn't worth anything to them, then they would not be upset about it, right? But it was worth something to them, so they're upset that they don't have their full worth. But the videos, RSS commentary videos are hidden right now because I don't know what is going to get me a ban, and the other strike's going to expire on the 24th if we didn't get another one tonight for saying some benign things, but I'm going to sue them. Like this, you can't just go off. I put a lot of money into this YouTube channel. Like I put way more money than most YouTubers do into their channel. And they can't just go like censoring speech for political purposes because Section 230 specifically states here that the internet and other interactive computer services offer a form of true diversity of political discourse. So let's break this down into the New York Times, Wikipedia, and Facebook, right? So New York Times, this is a newspaper. If they start publishing stuff that's tort offense like libel or slander or copyright violations, then you can sue the New York Times as you would an individual. So the New York Times has a website, all right? On that website, employees of the New York Times will go onto the website in order to post the stuff that goes onto the New York Times that can then be the tort offense. You following me on this? So, let's look at Wikipedia now. So Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, and they're just like the New York Times. They purport that they are a factual organization, that their organization is built on fact, that the claims there are true, and that's their reputation, is that the claims here on this encyclopedia are as true as we can get them. But then you go look at anything related to far-right politics or anybody that they're trying to slander as white nationalist, white supremacist, misogynist, like manosphere, incel, red pill. So on a lot of these wiki pages, you've got people who are posting false facts that are if the New York Times published these facts, they typically get sued for tort. Like a lot of these newspaper organizations that are putting out hit pieces about people being far right or white nationalist or misogynist, part of a hate group. A lot of these articles they get sued. They have to settle outside of court. And you're starting to see less and less and less and less of them because people are winning lawsuits. But you got Wikipedia. It's like, okay, how does Wikipedia differ fundamentally from the New York Times, right? So the New York Times, you have a group of people who's paid, who are your editors, who draft the official statements for the organization, right? On Wikipedia, you got admin who are functionally the editors, right? But these people aren't paid, but functionally they're still a newspaper. But the thing is it is not a forum for true political discourse because Wikipedia has a far left slant. It's highly biased towards communism, highly biased against nativism, against white people. The going narrative on there are that white people are bad, that they are white nationalists, they're racist, they're systemic racism, they're oppressing all the minorities in the big cities, and they won't hire the black people, and they won't share equally, and so functionally, the New York Times and Wikipedia, both the same thing. I think Wikipedia needs to get sued as a newspaper because they do publish false content. They do have admins who are the official. They've been admins for like 14 years, and they're definitely like editors who are the managers at the New York Times. So let's look at Facebook. Now, Facebook is a place where people go to publish. It's a social media site, and they go there for a forum for true diversity of political discourse. And then they say something about the election being rigged, and then they get banned because Mark Zuckerberg gave $500 million to push fraudulent mail-in voting and ballot harvesting that has the effect of rigging the election. And then, nope. Now, all of a sudden, now you've said something that can then get you banned, right? And I'm streaming on Facebook right now, so I'm testing the waters out. I'll just sue them. I know what I'm doing. I've got a very, 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 very long list of comments of mine that they've censored, claiming that they were spam, that were critical of BLM and Antifa. So I'm definitely more than willing to sue because I have financial interest in it. Just need to get hooked up with a lawyer if anybody knows a lawyer. But let's go back to the article. So tying this into the article, I know sometimes it seems like what I'm saying is a little bit disconnected, but they're not. They're actually all connected through the intellectual dark web, actually. So Facebook is coming after Josh Hawley because Josh Hawley's part of the group of people that he was part of the was blocking, or he was promoting the election fraud. And then he's also trying to break up Facebook. And then so Facebook is now engaging in suppression of speech that is in support of Josh Hawley and Josh Hawley's political camp, and is utilizing insider information that they have at Facebook, utilizing data that the public does not have access to in order to target political messages to people in order to make it not a forum for true forum for political diversity. And what was that? What did it say? For political, a forum for true diversity of political discourse. See, I tied it together. You thought I was on a tangent. No, I just know, I know this shit. Like I think that that argument that I just laid out there, that breaks Section 230. It's gone. There's no physical possible way that you can't say that Facebook is being merged with the state, that the state is not utilizing Facebook to push their own political agenda by threatening to break up Facebook if they don't target the people that the Democrats want. And if they target the people that the Democrats want, then they won't break them up. That's some deep stuff. That's actually a really, 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 really deep legal argument. Yeah, I do personally believe that Facebook should be regulated as if they're a corporate town. So a corporate town means that a corporation owns an entire town and that they have like their own stores that they service their employees. So mining towns used to be corporate towns. And the Supreme Court ruled that in these towns that they are governed by the U.S. Constitution. You can't just like prop up a parallel state within the United States, dude. You can't do that. Like whenever you reach a certain size, you're identical to a government. It's like, what does state mean? A state is sovereign. So once a corporation becomes sovereign within its territories, then you're governed under the Constitution. You can't be sovereign. Nobody can be sovereign. You're all governed under the Constitution. Do we got any other cool ads or cool ads? The ad popped up. Like, oh, any other cool ads? All right, this next. I'm sorry. Excuse me. In this next article from Fox News, Jill Biden says Kamala Harris can go F herself after she attacked Joe Biden in first debate, book claims. I'm going to second that one. Kamala Harris can go F off. The relationship between the Bidens and Vice President Kamala Harris purportedly became messy after Harris, then Joe Biden's opponent in the primary, came after the president for his record on business and his boast of his relationships with segregationist senators, according to journalist Edward Isaac DeVore. Yeah, Joe Biden was a segregationist. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like segregation was the best thing that to actually happen to the African Americans? Because what would have happened had segregation not happened? They wouldn't exist. The people that you know today, they would not be black. They would be mulatto. Well, can't say that term without explaining that no, it's not actually a pejorative. Some people are saying that it means mule in Portuguese, but that's not true. It's mole. Those people were wrong. It's always just meant that you're half black, half white. You got a better word? People around the world think it's a good word. It's like the N word means black in Latin. Like they didn't want to be called black in Latin anymore. They wanted to be called black in Portuguese. So then they're like, no, don't use that one. That one's bad. Call me black in Portuguese. Like, okay there, buddy. Okay. And then now they're like, no, call me an African American. No, I'm not black American. That's my skin color. They're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense, dude. You're getting offended that somebody called you black in Latin. Like if somebody calls you black in Latin, why don't you call them albus? That means white in Latin. I mean, for real. I mean, sidetrack. I can't stand these wokey Pinokies. I personally am just tired of Kamala Harris. So this woman, her family, if you look at her family tree, it doesn't look so good. So he's just saying, oh yeah, we picked this woman because she's like a minority. She's like one of the oppressed minorities, right? You're like, right. See, then you look into her family history, and on the Jamaican side, there were slave traders. And then on the Indian side was Brahmin. Oh, okay. That explains everything. If you're not familiar with the Brahmin class, the Brahmin is like a priestly class that is like the highest in the Hindu caste system. So they're like white supremacists. So basically, the quote unquote person of color, because white is not a color because of neo-scientific racism. The person of color we have in the office is absolutely no different than any of the white people. In fact, now that you actually mention it, actually, most of the slave trade in the world happens in Africa and Asia. Definitely not in the places where there's mostly white people. Most of the slaves live in Africa and Asia. So you can't really say that white people are bad because they're racist because they enslaved Africans, because the only reason why they had those slaves was because they had boats and they were trading with Africans who enslaved other Africans. And there's just a lot of bad. It's like these people think that racism is unique to white people. It's like, what it is they think racism is anti-black racism. They think that it's social Darwinism, where people think that other people have inferior genetics because they didn't evolve like predators, like the social Darwinist. It's like there's a lot worse people out there than some white dude who doesn't like black people or Asians, right? Like it's like people think that the Nazis committed the Holocaust because they're white supremacists. They really actually think that. If you ask people, they'll literally tell you they think that Nazis committed the Holocaust because they're white supremacists. It's like, wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense. Like, that's not at all why they did what they did. People are completely delusional about anything pertaining to the KKK or Nazis. So Nazis were working with communists to create a socialist utopia in Europe. I bring up this article a lot. From the War History Museum, how communists in Germany allied with Nazis to destroy democracy. And so in this article, they go through the history of how part of the history. So this is actually really deep. This stuff you can get a history degree in. There was a communist disinformation plan. It was a So what they were working. The Nazis were working with the communists. They didn't care whether or not you were a Nazi or a communist. They were trying to create a socialist utopia. The Nazis believed that it was the genetically inferior people, so it was the people who wouldn't share equally, and they said they were the Jews, and then there was the genetically inferior people, and that's the reason why communism wasn't working. It was not because communism didn't work, it was because of the people who wouldn't share and the genetically inferior people. And so really what it was, that's what they told you. But the reality was that the Marxist Jews were the ones that were putting out the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that the Jews control the world. The reason why is they want you to think that there's a group of religious people that is not your religion, who have money that their family gave to them. They're extremely rich. They control the world. They only share with their in-group, and they want to boot you out and replace you with their in-group. This is fundamentally what they're trying to do. It's not that they want you to hate the Jews, because the people that were putting out the propaganda were the Jews, the communist Jews who were in with Lenin and Stalin. What they wanted was you to overthrow the government. That's the point of the entire point of the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory is to overthrow the government. They do that by stoking hatred towards the people who control the world. That's the purpose, is that it's some abstract group of people, and you just have to tell the people that this group of people is the group of people that's committing all of the atrocities behind the scenes, and then you can blame everything on them. So going back to the article, they do the same thing with the white supremacist conspiracy theory. So the white supremacist conspiracy theory says the white supremacists are like this group of like Christian evangelicals who control the world, who they have a lot of money that their family gave to them, and they only share with their white supremacist in-group, and that this group of people has bad intentions and they're responsible for all of the bad things that happen. It's the exact same anti-Semitic conspiracy theory as anti-Semitism. The purpose is to get you to overthrow this person, to remove them. So what does this have to do with this? I'm on a side trail. Opponents in the primary came after president and his record. So there was this, okay, so I have a point. I think I was on a little bit of a rabbit trail. So the segregationists were kind of reactionaries. It's not that like they didn't, it's like they freed the slaves, and then after then they were afraid that the slaves would come back, and if they got power that they would try to get retribution against them. That was the purpose. And then there was also the eugenics people, and like the people who thought that basically the white people's genes would get diluted and we wouldn't look like we're white anymore. But there's a few different groups of people, but they're in large part, the reactionaries. They're like reacting to the society fundamentally changing in a bad way. So I don't really hold anything against these people, because like during that period of time, I mean, you got to look at the how short a period of time ago the Civil War was. What, 1876? Like that's really not that long ago. That's like 150 years ago. In the grand scheme of things, that's like 5 generations back to back holding hands. That's actually not very, very long. And that would have been, whenever this was going on, like 30 years ago, it would have been, there would have been people maybe who were alive who would have dealt with some of the, who would have been children of slaves. So, I feel like it basically, they're just trying to channel hatred towards you based on stuff that happened in the past. And it's really just kind of BS, because you got to look at people where they're at right now, because people change. They're not like that one dude, Daryl Denson, I think, that guy that converts the KKK, got the KKK clan hoods. This guy got 200 KKK members to convince them to give up their robes. It's Daryl Davis, right? So this guy, he just goes in and befriends them, turns into their friends. And I think that's just a life lesson where it's like, these people just want to attack these people who have never been a victim of racism, they've never had their family that they've known that anybody during their period of time, none of them been lynched. They're like Kamala Harris's family is wealthy. And then they're going off about oppression that doesn't even affect them. And then you look at it, it's like their family's wealthy, and like their family's descendant, like Kamala Harris's family's descendants of slave owners. And it's like, they're just hypocrites. They're attacking you based off of any sort of thing that they can to attack you. And this last presidential election was just disgusting. What they did, how they treated Donald Trump and Trump supporters because of all this venomous hatred towards racist people, like as if like a white person not liking non-whites is a sin or something. But then it's totally okay for non-whites to hate on white people. That one's totally okay. Right. Me as an adult, as somebody who like is not racist, does not hold bigotry against white people or non-whites, that doesn't sit right with me. Like, to me, bigotry means like bigotry. It means that like you don't be intolerant to people because of their race, creed, religion, like just some sort of thing about their humanity. Like some people are POSs, like gangbangers or rapists or alcoholics or whatever, like that's fine to discriminate against, because, you don't really want alcoholics like destroying your life. But it's like these people just want to blame anytime like a black person doesn't get hired for a job and it was a white person, they want to say it's racism. And then anytime that a black person does not get hired by another black person, then it's the man. It's the white man who runs the place. It's like, it's the same thing. It's like, what does this have to do about it? I've given too many words to this cackling hyena. Let's go on to something that is cooler. Here in this next article from Newsweek, 31 kilos of cocaine washes ashore in Alabama beach. Gulf Shore Police Department Sergeant Jason Woodruff said authorities were first alerted when the washed up drugs by beachgoers. Really? You had to ruin all of that cocaine. It's just not right. I mean, when you see massive amounts of cocaine washing ashore, you're supposed to call me. Look, just drop it in a comment down below. Be like, yo, Kale, we just found kilos of cocaine washing ashore on a beach. I'll be there, bro. Oh, God, I just offended all the old crabby people, didn't I? Oh, now you don't respect me anymore, huh? This hurt my feelings. This next story from Newsweek. I became addicted to dating apps. I started swiping more and more and trying to get another dopamine hit from a match or a message from another guy named Jared or Brandon telling me how cute I was. Yeah. That's because girls almost always only swipe right on the top 15% of the income earners and social status and looks. And then they say men are trash. And then they chase these dudes. And then there's maybe 7 to 10 girls chasing after the same guy. And then that means your chance of getting the guy is 10% on any good night. Or 1 in the number of partners that person has had. So your chance of actually hooking up with the premium alpha male guy from the dating site is actually incredibly low. It's actually very, very low. If someone has slept with 100 women, your chance of getting with that guy is less than or equal to 1%. Right? This is just the reality of the world, is that these dating sites are fundamentally toxic. Because what happens is almost all the guys that are on these dating sites, they're like not getting shit for matches. They're getting like maybe once a week. Maybe they got a couple in the beginning and then it dropped off. And then they got depressed about it, never updated their profile. Never got a new good camera, so their pictures always suck like me. That's why I got nice cameras. The thing that's just poopy about this is it's like, it's just not good for anybody. It's like the women are getting all this attention. So it used to be you had to get rid of the guys that were giving you all this attention so that you could have the high quality guy come after you. So if a girl had a guy that was chasing after her and he was like not the guy that she wanted, and then there was the guy that she wanted around, she would be irritated with the guy who she didn't want, it was giving her the attention. Now we got social media where you got these Instagram queens and these what's that one, that OnlyFans, the one where all the hookers start going a little bit more NC-17 rated, right? Yeah, the ones that you like making all the women turn into virtual prostitutes so that they could try to get that millions of dollars like Mia Khalifa. Right, like you want videos of dozens of guys jizzing on you all over the internet. So anytime you want to go get a good job, the person's going to say, I loved the porns I've watched with you, so sorry, we can't hire you. Or maybe if you bang me, then I'll hire you. It's like the women price themselves out of the market, because it's like they make some porns with some guys, and then the guys they just want to blow in as many girls as possible. And so they're going to try to go on a string of hooking up with chicks. And then the women they have to, in order to get the attention, they have to put out more and more sexual energy, which makes the sexual energy worth less and less and less. This is the problem. It's the problem with it, is that women have a very short window in their lives where they can actually mate and have a baby. And if they put off having a kid till they're 30 so they can rise up the man ladder, so they could fire the white dudes to replace them with younger, more diverse people, then whenever they want to settle down to find a partner, they're going to be getting overweight. They're going to have health problems. They're going to be working all the time. They're going to be boring. They're going to have hang-ups. They're probably going to be an angry older feminist who has a lot of money, who says that men are misogynist because they've been chasing after them their entire lives, giving them all the attention, paying for them. And then now that they're older, whenever they want to settle down, now the guys are chasing after the younger women like they've been doing the whole time. And they're pissed. They're pissed. They just gave up their youth for some stupid job to work on some stupid product that either got canceled, went end of life, or nobody gave a rat's ass about. And then all of a sudden you hit the 30s when the clock is ticking, where you got like a couple of years left to make your babies, to get your family, so that you can pass off your genes to the next generation, and so that the future happens, because without the kids, there's no future. And then you realize you just got scammed. You just realize that you've been lied to your entire life, that this feminism thing was supposed to be like the thing that made the world equal, that like made it so that women can do what they want. And then you put them in a workplace where they turn into slaves, where they're always a subordinate and they're almost never the boss. It's like, okay, so at least at home, the guy that at least technically is like saying he's in control because he's working longer hours and he's paying for stuff. But then in reality, the woman's running the shows at the house, or else he's sleeping on a couch. That is a lot more feminist, in my opinion. That's a lot more like the woman controlling the shows behind the scenes, or else the dude's sleeping on a couch, or she's leaving and taking half the house and the kids. I think that's a lot more empowering, because it's like, you got to think about like empowerment as like you're trying to force somebody to do something, right? You're like, okay, so we're equal, but neither of us can hit each other, because the guys can't hit the girl, and the woman's not supposed to hit the guys either, because like feminism, right? And then you realize that this doesn't really actually solve all of the problems that we had. Like, the problems were that like we were poor because we didn't get a good education, and mom worked all the time, and dad got lower wages because mom was working all the time. So instead of just dad getting more money and women spending less money on the goods that they own, because they don't have to pay for rent, because the guys are paying for the rent. And then guys don't buy girl stuff, so it's worth different amounts of money. Like, it's like like to a girl, a thing of guys deodorant or like my necktie probably is not really going to be very useful for this person, right? Like it might cost, $30 new for the necktie, but it's not really worth any sort of money to the woman because she doesn't wear that, right? So it's like you're thinking you're getting equal pay, but the reality is that rich people don't pay taxes. They make negative money, right? And then also, too, when you work all the time, you got to spend double. You got to pay twice as much because you don't have enough time to be thrifty. And it's like all of that money that you think you're getting extra in pay just goes out the window. It's like if feminism was really the answer for everything and it was going to make the world a better place, why is it that there's widespread poverty and drug abuse? Everybody's at the all-time lowest, happiest that they've been in my entire lifetime, and that people are like broke and people can't afford to go out and do stuff. And now the Chinese are more powerful than us. Okay. Obviously, feminism isn't going to solve our problems. Obviously, you have to have babies when you're the hottest because you need to find the best quality dude. And you as a woman, you're like, oh, you're trying to tell women what to do. You're like, all right, so if you're a woman and you're the hottest that you are in your life, what are you going to do? You're going to get the best dude. Or you're going to slave for Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, Jeff Bezos, George Soros, Bill Gates, some random Chinese corporation making some knockoff product that's going to go end of life. I don't know about you, but I got a kid. He's like 12. He's a boy. David is his name. And I would rather spend my time with my kid. I would rather have another kid, right, than make a product that's going to go end of life that nobody cares about. That's something that I learned running a business that made a product that went end of life. Nobody cared about. It's a painful lesson when it's your baby and you want to see that thing succeed and everybody love it just like it in your imagination you loved it. But then after you got there, you realize like, I'm not even into that anymore. This has been such a long period of time since then that I don't have the same interest. I'm not even the same person, dude. I mean, I used to like have like be a hippie and go to raves and do acid all the time. And one point in time, I almost had dreadlocks, but I don't think my hair really goes too good with it. And it doesn't really feel all right, right? And then now it's like, I don't have the same interest. And this is what the feminists are, they're getting sold a false bill of goods because by the time, you get, if you're trying to get into engineering and like stuff that's like, requires you to give up having kids until your 30s so that you can rise up, so you can get the skills and rise up the man ladder. I mean, you don't really notice because like you just want to like have the money and then do the fun thing. And then it's going to be like the perfect life, right? That's the idea. And then you get there and you're like, this is a lot of work. We're like it's just to make money for somebody else. I mean, I was excited about this product, but like maybe 7 years later, it's like, dude, I don't give a fuck about this thing, dude. Like, I don't. That's the point where it's like, do I really want to give up my family so that I can try to make some product that nobody cares about? I'd rather have the family that I do care about. And that's why it's like, we gotta these dating apps are horrible, dude, because it's like a substitute. It's like you can just, instead of putting in the hard work, finding somebody like in a smaller group of people where you can focus on living your life, and then instead of trying to have to hook up with all these different random people, do all these text messages back and forth, going on all these different random places, and then got all this drama and people trying to split your friend group up and stuff. And then it's a lot better when we have potlucks at people's houses and people like get out and meet people in person, because this stuff just doesn't work, dude. Because like the 85% of the guys, they don't have fancy vacation pictures. Like, I'm a decent looking guy. I could have really nice pictures on my dating profile, but like I never had a good camera until recently, and my camera sucked. I thought it was ugly because it was my camera. It wasn't me. It was it just like, there's, when you have a bad camera, like and it's bad with low light, it'll like smear the images, like, you know what I'm talking about? And then you just look bad. You got grain, and then like, you know, you kind of like looking off, like you did some Molly at a rave or something, and then you're like looking kind of wiry or something, right? But yeah, maybe we should all just do ecstasy. You should give me a call. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Oh, hey, check it out. Oh, from Hacker News. Chrome is testing RSS-powered follow button. What? What? Where's this coming at you from? From 9 to 5 Google. If you're unfamiliar with RSS, it's a file format for distributing news. It's like how you find news articles. This thing is an RSS news reader. Over here, this feed lab. And so this is going to allow you to follow people using RSS. Eventually, I'll have some open source stuff for doing this, but RSS commentary is, I was openly advertising an open source news organization. I'm reevaluating what I'm going to sell, but we will be having actually a distributed open source social network. I've got my own technology platform based on C++. I got a wicked fast string printing library. Makes web pages real fast. Using Markdown cookbook, kind of like Jekyll. That's my thing. I do these Markdown cookbooks. They're great. What am I saying? Yeah, so what it does is it's like the news feed for Facebook, kind of, with these RSS feeds. And I would say it's definitely the way of the future. Definitely. You'll be seeing a lot more from RSS commentary. I've got a new website coming out here next month or something. You should be able to log into it. Not super far on it, but you'll be able to comment on RSS feeds at the website. So you can go to rsscommentary.com/issue 125 for this show. And then in the future, there will be more people doing commentary. Currently just getting the platform ready. What am I saying? I'm yapping. I'm sorry. Let's look for another article here. This one's nasty. Whoa. In this next article from the Daily Mail, teacher tortured and killed his 4 cats to feel powerful. Graham William Reed, 29, admitted to torturing and killing his 4 cats, cabbage, parsnip, carrot, and broccoli over the course of 6 months to feel powerful. Oh, shoot. Speaking of cats, I need to let the cat out. After this, I'm going to be done here after this one. Reed told an investigator that he killed the feline in order to feel powerful because he was bullied and oppressed as a child. The cats were subjected to horrific injuries, including broken teeth, bloodied toes, cut tails, respiratory issues, and broken bones. Ouch. Reed was finally turned into police after a veterinarian provided a tip to authorities after noticing multiple cases of severe injury, which didn't add up. Ugh, what a sick person. That's just disgusting. When I was a kid, one of my first memories, we had these kittens. We were living in Augusta, Georgia, and we went out with me, my mother, my sister, and I, and there was no one else in our family unit at that time. We came home, and the kittens were hanged in the kitchen. Somebody had broken in and killed our cats. It's pretty disgusting. It's a special kind of depraved mind, but yeah, I guess there's a lot of them. Hey, so that's it for RSS.